Welcome back to Casey's Backyard Barbecue. Today we're going to be doing a whole pork shoulder with the bone in. And we're going to be going into pulled pork and we're cooking it with the skin on, trying to get that crispy. Here we go. Time to do our whole bone-in pork shoulder, and we're going to be cooking it with the skin on. Let's get out of the wrapping. Today, we're actually going to be cooking it with the skin on. I want to see if we can get that nice crispy skin on the smoker today. Now, for the other side, I do want to take off a lot of this because I want to get the most meat exposure as possible to see if we can get that rub adhered as best as possible to it. So we're going to take all of this like extra little silver skin bits, cut that all off. And today the plan is, when we're completely done with this, is we're going to be heading this down to a pulled pork sandwich. I think it's going to be delicious. And because our end result's going to be a pulled pork sandwich, this is not going to be, needs to be perfect. I just want to get a lot more seasoning onto the meat for this side. And now we're going to prep our skin up a little bit. We'll be doing something special for this, but for right now, what I'm just going to do is we're going to be scoring it just to kind of help render it a little bit, and hopefully we can get some crispy pieces coming off of that. And we're going to be cooking this with the skin on, and we're going to be seasoning the other side as well. And for our rub today, which we're going to be putting on the meat, is going to be our pork barrel barbecue. Inside here, it's just basically kind of your standard barbecue rub. We got our salt, garlic and onion, spices, chili pepper, smoked paprika, mustard flour, chili, pepper, celery seed, and a little cilantro. That's what's in this barbecue rub. This is going to be a lot of that barbecue flavor. We're going to cover every piece of meat that we have on the side. We're not worrying about the skin side of this yet, but the meat side we do want to get covered. Now that we have the first layer of season, we're going to hit it with the old coarse black pepper, and this is going to help with bark creation. We're not going to go too heavy on this though, because black pepper can tend to be just a little bit of a heavy flavor on the final result, so don't want too much, but just a little bit to help the bark out. And that's looking pretty good to me. Now we're just going to let that sit for a couple of minutes, let that seasoning get into the meat while we fire up the pit. What we're going to be doing today is going to be putting a drip tray down underneath. We're going to be using just regular apple cider vinegar, nothing too crazy, but we're going to put a little bit down there in the drip tray, hopefully to keep a lot of that moisture in during the cook. Second thing we did today is kind of a prep of the grill is we had a little bit tall cut of meat, so I took off the top rack here. And that way we have plenty of room, so we're not going to be smashing that meat down while we cook it. All right, now it's time to put our meat on, and it's been resting a little bit, get all those seasonings in there. We're going to be putting our lovely skin side right up, fat side towards this side, leg side towards that side. All right, now for our skin, right on the grill here, we're going to be doing a ton of kosher salt all over the skin. We're going to try to get this nice and crisped up. The object here is that we're going to be drawing all that extra moisture out the skin in order to get it nice and crispy. Now we're going to stick our probe into the big fat side of the meat there. I'm going to put number 2 right in here just to see how hot the actual pit is getting. We're going to go ahead and shut that up. All right, and we're going to be using our hickory wood chunks just to give us our smoke flavor. I'm going to put 2 in right now. We don't want to add too much heat, we just want to add smoke. And we're just going to let that chill on the smoker there for the next like 3 hours. We're looking to see that salt crisp up, dry all that moisture off of the skin, and we'll check it in about 3 hours. All right, we've been rocking this grill for about 3 hours now, and it's been rocking about 250, and we're trying to get the internal temperatures of the pork to 165 degrees. Let's take a look at what we got so far. And look at that salt. It has done an amazing job of pulling out all that moisture. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna scrape off all that salt. I'm gonna try to, we might lose a little bit, but it looks like it did exactly what it's supposed to do and draws out all that moisture. Get that nice crust off there. All right, not crispy yet, but it is definitely dry, and that's what we're looking for. Now, if we look over here on this side, we are getting a little crunchy and a little sort of extra extra flame on that, but we're gonna be doing this for pulled pork, so I'm not real worried about it being super consistent all the way across. Now we're gonna flip this up so we can get this side of it grilled up. We wanna try to crisp all this up. We got a couple bits that are gonna be a little bit gnarly, but you know, that's okay. Let's take a look at how we're doing on our bark so far. And honestly, that looks pretty good. Getting a little bit dried out there. So I'm just gonna spritz it down, 50-50 apple cider vinegar and water mixture, because we're gonna be really paying attention to a lot of moisture from this point out. All right, and we're gonna let that chill on there for another 3 hours. We're gonna try to hit that internal temperature on that pork now for 165 degrees. Now we gotta make ourselves a little bit of a mop sauce to keep this thing moist while the next part of the cook. So what we're gonna be doing is about 1 part apple cider vinegar, 1 part regular vinegar. I'm gonna do just a squirt of Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce, a little bit of the pork rub that we used earlier, and we're gonna pop in a little bit of Lawry seasoned salt. Get it all nice and mixed up, and we'll be mopping this periodically throughout the cook. All right, this thing has been rocking and rolling at well, 250 degrees, somewhere in there. Kind of been bouncing back and forth a bit, but we just hit our stall temp of about 160. All right, so I was gonna take the skin off before the wrap, but I think it's gonna be something that we're gonna have to try it a little bit different. It didn't get quite as crispy as I'd like it to be. So we're just going ahead and wrap it with that, and probably just not end up using it. All right, now we're gonna transfer this over to a pan here, and I'm gonna get this wrapped up for the final part of the cook. I'm actually gonna put a little bit of that basting that we've been using, that mop sauce. I'm gonna drop just a little bit down in the pan there. Wanna get that moisture going. With nothing poking through. Got a good seal on it. And we're gonna toss that in the oven at 275 degrees to finish up this pork for us. All right, it's been about 3 more hours sitting in the oven at 275 degrees, and we've finally hit our internal temperatures of 201, which is our target temp. So now it's time to take a look and see how we did. Let's take a look at that skin. Yeah, it definitely got much softer after the wrap. The only thing that I would do differently is the skin looks kind of nice, but it's rubbery, it's not crispy. And it protected the meat, but it's gonna kind of shield it from the smoke flavor. I think we'll do that one a little bit different next time. Not splash everywhere. Oh, wow, very hot. That's why we definitely use the gloves. Those look amazing. It smells unbelievable. But now we gotta let this rest for about an hour before we get into it. I'm looking at it right now. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the jiggle factor. Whoa. That's gonna be so unbelievably tender. Unbelievably tender. Look how much pullback we have on that bone too. Gonna be amazing. We'll give that about an hour, but since we have a little bit of time, we got a bit of a bonus. We've gotta make some coleslaw. All right, now while we're waiting for the rest to happen, we're gonna go ahead and make ourselves a little bit of coleslaw. We got one of those prefab bags, just got a bunch of cabbage and carrots in there, already chopped up for us. And I'll be honest, this is definitely not my recipe for this. I just looked up coleslaw recipe on the internet, and first thing that popped up, I kind of brought whatever ingredients we had out. So I'll tell you what we're gonna use. We'll see how it turns out. 3/4 cups of regular mayo. 3/4 cup milk here. 3 tablespoons of sugar. A teaspoon and a half of salt, so a teaspoon and a half of minced garlic, and just a pinch of black pepper. Stir all that up. Add that to our cabbage and carrot mixture, and we'll give this a good stir. Oops, I forgot one ingredient, so we're gonna give it a little bit of lemon juices there as well, and stir that back up. Just a couple spritz. Now I'll just put that in the fridge, and we'll be back with you after about an hour once the pork shoulder cools down. We've let it rest for about an hour and a half. I wanna see how juicy and tender this actually is. I'm just gonna dig into it right there. Right off the bat, I'm pulling that no problem whatsoever. And I'm gonna start pulling this apart. And right there, look how good that looks. That nice smoke ring in there, super, super tender, just pulls right apart. And look, this is the center point where we're not gonna get nearly as much of that smoke flavor in there, but we're gonna have a nice amount of juices. And I think I'm gonna try a little piece of that just to see how that came out. I'd say that's pretty good. Beautiful, tons of rendered fat in there. All in right now, between the cook and the rest, we are probably in the neighborhood of 12 hours total for the cook time. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is a beautiful, huge pile of meat. What we're gonna do is take that dripping pan, and I'm gonna add that right back to the meat. That's beautiful fat, beautiful flavor. A Sweet Baby Ray's. Mix it all together real nice. And that turned out super juicy, very tender. Extremely happy with what came out of this because it is, once again, a very forgiving cut of meat that you could experiment with, find out what you like, what you don't like. So now I'm just gonna make some sandwiches, put some coleslaw on it, save the rest. Great pile of pig for the family for the entire week.